Have you ever tried copying a home organization trick you saw online, only to find it barely work the same way in your own home? A closet organizer that gave someone else's clothes room to breathe, but left yours just as crowded. A narrow gap beside the fridge that held an entire rolling cart of supplies in one home, yet stayed awkwardly empty in another. It's tempting to assume the idea itself was flawed, or that your home is somehow harder to organize. But the real issue rarely comes down to effort. Some Japanese storage systems were built around one very specific shape, depth, or daily habit. And outside of that exact situation, they behave completely differently. These 10 Japanese home organization ideas walk through exactly that. From the kitchen to the closet to the narrowest gaps in a home. Once you see how the first one plays out, you'll start noticing exactly which of your own spaces it was built for. 1. Vertical KonMari folding. Open your dresser drawer on a normal morning, and the shirt you actually want to wear is usually buried somewhere near the bottom, underneath everything else stacked on top of it. The fix has a name many people recognize even outside Japan, the KonMari method built around vertical folding. Instead of stacking clothes flat in a pile, each item gets folded into a small, compact rectangle and stood upright, almost like books lined up on a shelf. A t-shirt becomes a narrow rectangle. Jeans fold the same way. The moment the drawer opens, every single item is visible at once. Towels, socks, and even folded scarves take to the same treatment surprisingly well, often fitting more into the drawer than a traditional stacked pile ever could. It doesn't work equally well for everything you own, though. A thick wool sweater or a padded jacket rarely holds its shape standing upright and tends to slump sideways within a day. For pieces like those, a flat fold or a hanger still works better. Sometimes the right system isn't the one that looks the most impressive in a photo. It's simply the one that matches the weight of what you're folding. Drawer dividers. Why does one kitchen drawer always seem to become the place where spoons, rubber bands, and phone chargers reach a strange, tangled kind of equilibrium, no matter how many times it gets tidied? Drawer dividers handle this well. Instead of tossing everything into one open compartment, the drawer gets split into smaller sections using inexpensive dividers, often picked up from stores like Daiso, Nitori, or Muji. One section for socks, another for cables, another for utensils. This isn't limited to bedroom drawers either. A kitchen drawer can separate chopsticks, peelers, and scissors, while a bathroom drawer keeps skincare items from sliding into one messy pile. The one thing dividers need to actually work is depth. In a shallow drawer, standard dividers can wobble or simply not fit, which usually calls for a slimmer version instead. How many drawers in your own home were organized around whatever divider happened to be on sale rather than the other way around? So far, both of these ideas have been about making better use of storage you already have, but the next ones look at something different. Turning space that seems too small or too awkward to matter into storage. Most homes don't even realize they have. Tall, slim drawer cabinets. There's a strip of space beside almost every washing machine or wardrobe that never gets used for anything, just wide enough to catch dust, but seemingly too narrow to be worth the effort. A tall, slim drawer tower turns that exact gap into usable storage. Rather than a wide, bulky cabinet, these towers are narrow, lightweight, and each drawer is shallow enough to hold only a single layer of items. One drawer might hold towels, another stationery, another spare batteries. It turns up in more places than most people expect, tucked into a kitchen corner, wedged behind a bathroom door, or slid beside a refrigerator. Brands like Muji and Iris Oyama have built entire product lines around exactly this shape. The trade-off is size. A tower this narrow holds light, flat items with ease, but anything bulky, like a folded comforter, simply won't fit no matter how the drawers are rearranged. Vertical freezer storage. Imagine opening your freezer to grab a bag of frozen vegetables, only to find it wedged somewhere beneath frozen meat, ice packs, and at least one mystery container nobody remembers buying. Vertical freezer storage handles exactly this. Instead of laying frozen food flat in a messy stack, each bag stands upright inside a narrow bin, almost like files inside a filing cabinet. Ground beef, dumplings, vegetables, and seafood each get their own slot, label facing up. Some households take it one step further and label the front of each bin, creating clear sections for different categories of food. The benefit isn't just convenience. When everything's visible, it becomes much harder to buy a duplicate of something already there, tucked out of sight. Standing bags do need enough vertical clearance to work, though. A freezer drawer that's too shallow will tip everything sideways within a week, undoing the whole system before it gets the chance to help. Reused file holder in kitchen. The item solving one of the most common kitchen storage problems was never designed for a kitchen at all. The unlikely fix is a simple office file holder, repurposed as a vertical organizer for kitchen essentials. Cutting boards slide into separate slots. Baking trays stand upright instead of stacking. Pot lids line up side by side instead of sliding around loose in a drawer. It works just as well tucked inside a deep cabinet, turning otherwise wasted vertical space into an organized row of flat items, cutting boards, trays, even rolls of parchment paper and foil. Round pots and bulky mixing bowls won't slide into these slots the same way flat items do. So this system works best paired with something else nearby for anything with real curves. How many kitchen problems in your own home could be solved by something that was never built to solve them if it only got a second look? Every idea so far has been about finding space that already exists somewhere in your home, in a drawer, a gap, or a freezer, and using it more deliberately. The next ideas take a different approach, creating more usable space out of the same shelf or wall you already have without adding a single extra centimeter to the room itself. Shelf risers. Look inside almost any kitchen cabinet and there's a strange kind of emptiness sitting just above your stacked plates or bowls. Too high to be wasted space, yet too awkward to actually use. A shelf riser fills that gap, acting essentially as a miniature second floor placed inside the cabinet. Large plates stay on the bottom, smaller bowls sit above. Mugs no longer need stacking inside each other. This scales easily to other cabinets too, wherever a shelf has unused height above it. No installation needed, just a riser placed inside. It only works if the cabinet has enough vertical clearance to begin with. In a shorter cabinet, a riser can end up blocking the shelf above it entirely. Sometimes the smarter fix isn't a bigger cabinet. It's making the one already there work twice as hard. Magnetic spice storage. There's a specific cluster of small bottles that almost always ends up parked on the kitchen counter, taking up prime cooking space for no particular reason. The countertop clears up considerably once those spices move onto a vertical surface instead. Magnetic jars attach directly to the side of a refrigerator. Slim racks mount to the wall beside the stove. It isn't only spices that benefit from this shift. Small bottles of oil and soy sauce find a home on the same magnetic strips. None of this works on a stainless steel refrigerator, though. The magnets simply won't hold, and the jars end up right back on the counter they were meant to leave. A wall-mounted rack solves the same problem without needing a single magnet. Multi-layer hangers. How many pairs of pants live on hangers that were only ever designed to hold one? A multi-layer hanger solves this by holding several pairs, sometimes 5, sometimes closer to 10, on a single hook instead of one. Some versions hang vertically, others fold sideways, and the same style works for scarves, belts, and lightweight towels. A closet that felt permanently crowded suddenly has room most people forget closets are supposed to have. Heavier pieces change the equation. A thick coat or leather jacket can pull the whole hanger off balance once loaded past a few pieces, so it works best reserved for lighter clothing. Every idea so far has been about matching a system to the physical shape of a space. The last two look at something slightly different, habits that form around what's easy to see and what quietly gets bought twice because it wasn't. Clear labeled containers. A pantry can look reasonably tidy and still hide the same bag of rice bought 3 separate times simply because the first 2 were never seen again after being pushed toward the back. Clear labeled containers close that gap. Flour, rice, pasta, and dried beans go into transparent containers with simple labels, so contents and amount remaining are visible at a glance. The habit carries over past the pantry. Refrigerator bins and freezer baskets benefit from the same approach, and every family member knows exactly where something belongs. Does a particular ingredient need to be seen at a glance, or does it need to be protected from light? For coffee, certain spices, and delicate teas, the answer usually points the other way. Slim rolling gap cart. Back to that gap beside the fridge from the very beginning of this video, the one that either holds a rolling cart of supplies or sits empty depending on which home it's in. The cart itself is built specifically for gaps like that one, narrow enough to slide into a space as tight as 15 to 20 centimeters, with several shelves inside for anything from cooking oil to laundry detergent. Pull it out when needed, and it rolls back into place afterward, completely out of sight. The same cart fits just as naturally beside a washing machine or next to a narrow cabinet. That gap needs to stay a gap for a reason, though. Many refrigerators rely on the space beside them for proper airflow, so it's worth checking an appliance's clearance requirements first. Sometimes the smartest use of empty space isn't filling all of it. It's knowing exactly how much of it needs to stay empty. None of these 10 ideas are complicated, and not one requires tearing anything out or starting from scratch. Vertical folding for thin clothes, drawer dividers matched to actual depth, slim towers for narrow gaps, standing bags in the freezer, a file holder repurposed for flat kitchen items, a shelf riser wherever the height allows, spice racks moved onto a wall instead of the counter, multi-layer hangers reserved for light clothing, labeled containers for whatever actually needs to be seen, a rolling cart for the one gap built to hold it. Looked at together, these ideas share one quiet pattern. A system rarely fails because it was a bad idea to begin with. It fails because it was borrowed without ever asking whether it matched the space in front of it. So here's a fair question worth sitting with. Looking around your own home right now, which of these 10 do you already have the exact space for? Subscribe if you'd like to find out which other Japanese systems quietly fit the rest of your home too.